Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Lake Hot Rods. Today we're jumping right in on the exhaust. We'll get the camera turned around here in a second. I'll show you what I'm doing. Once I got the coilovers installed, I figured out that the exhaust is just a little too close to the fuel tank. If I can get my words out of my head. I need a little bit more room, so what I'm gonna do is cut about an inch off the exhaust and we'll bring it out. We'll cut the V-bands off of it and we'll shorten it up here at the rear end and basically just take about an inch out of it so to get away from the gas tank. So I think it's a little too close. So we got the coilovers in place and the brackets installed. So anyway, I'm gonna take and cut the tailpipes off where this V-band on the other end here is on both ends, which is laying up here. I'm gonna cut about an inch out of here and basically pull this whole section forward an inch, and I'll go add an inch back to here. Of course, I've already fully welded this part and all this. I had just tacked the V-bands in place so they'd be nice and strong to hold the exhaust in while I mocked it up. But I'll cut it off here and add, hopefully I'll try to get this cut square enough where I can add this inch back to this. And essentially, I was gonna add it to the end of the exhaust, the muffler itself, but I've already added the hanger and the bracket under the cars all finished. You know, kind of sometimes jump ahead of yourself a little bit, but I can't really move this section. So I can move this section forward on both sides, passenger side and the driver's side. So we'll get it on the bench. I gotta get the workbench cleared off, and we'll get started. All right, I got the pipe marked, and we'll cut it with the porta band here so I can hopefully get a nice straight cut. That ain't too bad. Let's see. Let's get this cleaned up. Alright, so that come off of there. Now I gotta cut the other end off and figure out the spacing on this here. I got the muffler protected because it's nice and stainless, pretty. I don't want to destroy it. At least not yet. Now give it time, I'll destroy it. Let's see. I'll chop it off right here where I welded it. Yeah, I don't really need to mark it. I'll just follow the weld and hopefully I can get another nice straight cut. I actually midway changed my mind. I decided to back up about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm cutting the flange off of the pipe, and that'll leave that ring welded to it, and I'll hit it with a grinder, and hopefully that'll make for a little bit cleaner final product. We'll see how it works. Try not to cut it too deep so I can keep that flange on there. Great. Check that out. That's exactly what I want. So now I can add this piece to here. I know it's not really the right way to do it, but other than make this whole bend, and I don't even think I have another bend. That'll slide in there and give that a little room to. I may need to make this a longer piece, but I'm essentially welding this like that. So that's how much, an 1.25-inch-ish. I'm gonna tack it all in place, and I'll put it back in the car and make sure this time, that it should be fine. But what's happened is I've made some changes to the other components. And once you do that, it's a rabbit hole until you figure out all the changes you've made work in harmony together. Sometimes that's just the way it is. All right, let me get this. I bought this exhaust system, mild steel, so no matter what I do to it, it's going to rust from the inside out. But it is what it is. The ability to purge the backside of it to get a proper weld with the stainless. So I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said, work with what I got. It should hold up fine. I mean, I think all the cars built today with factory exhaust is all steel, and it lasts the way it should last. This car will be garage kept, so it should be fine. Go ahead and get this tack welded together, and I'll tack weld it to the muffler and get this going. We're gonna have to fire up the welder and make some noise, so bear with me. Got to clock it. So I have to weld the V-band back on the other end, put it in, fit the muffler, and tack it under the car. Alright, now we've worked our way into a corner here. We'll move over to the car and we'll get this bolted back in place and try to clock the muffler. See what kind of improvements we made. So far so good. That I can put my hand between the tank and the exhaust. So I think that's plenty of room, and there's plenty of room over here on the other side from the coilover also. So I'm gonna tighten put the muffler in here. All right, so I determined I've got my tailpipe back in place. I don't like how it curves and kicks over towards the wheel tub, and it's really buying too much real estate in my tire clearance area. I want to make the tires as wide as I possibly can. As far as what fits my wallet, also I got a kind of fine line there, but I don't want to have to worry about the exhaust hitting a tire as it comes into play here, the tub and all that good stuff. So I want to bring it this way and get this kick out of it. It kicks that way. I want it to come straight back because the exhaust, the gas tank it cuts down like this. So I've got a channel here, a little narrow channel, where I could bring the exhaust and kind of get this bend out of it. What I may do, I need a little bit of the bend, so I may end up cutting almost 3/4, well, maybe a third of that. I may cut a third of that off. I gotta be careful when you cut into a bend like that, it loses the roundness of the pipe. So that's another thing I'm gonna fight. So I'm gonna take that back off and go from there. All right, I got a little bend here. I got a bend here. And I got another piece of straight. I know I have a whole nother, I think it's 4 feet of straight pipe. So if I need it, I have it. But I think these bends here, I can do something with that. That'll be plenty of material to work with. I just need the curve, and I can use the curve out of what I got also. So I think I can make do with what I got. So let me get the other one out. We'll get it back on the table, and we'll develop a plan here and see what we're gonna do. All right, so essentially this is the tailpipe. Exhaust coming this way and exiting through the muffler, which is back through here. And what I wanna do is get rid of that bend. This kick is actually touching the tire that I have in there as a mock-up. So it is really irrelevant, it's just for roller purposes. But if it's hitting it now and I wanna go big, it's gonna probably end up hitting what I decide and limit my choices. So I'm gonna take a little bit of bend out of here and I'm gonna come straight and then kick, and that'll get rid of this part here. Try to do it on the workbench and just tack it loosely and do some measuring and checking, and just do that really with the proper bends, obviously. All right, let me do some figuring here and we'll see what we can come up with. So I think I'm gonna cut here. I'm gonna cut the piece off that I welded on a minute ago for the spacing, and I'll drop this down, and that will bring this whole portion down, which is gonna come away. Anytime I bring it this way, that's gonna get that curve out of the tire. So I'm essentially dropping this section this way, 1.25 inches. So let me get that cut off, and I think that'll be a good way of starting here. All right, so that dropped it quite a bit right there. I got little marks on the table here to kind of give me an eyeball. What I'll do is when I get it to where I think it's right, I'll tack it, and we'll go back to the car. Trying to see if rolling it would be different, because I can rotate this on the V-band. I'm not going to stay on that same plane, but It seems to be going the wrong direction. So I'm trying to think, like, if I cut it in here, then I'm cutting it in an odd place in the bend. And it's going to make the bend an oval instead of a round piece. So it'd be hard to. What I need to do is cut this off like I did the other one from the muffler. I'll cut back here in about an 1/8, grind this weld off, and then I'll probably slowly start chipping away at this curve until I get it about right there. I think I'll do that. Perfect. All right. I'll use that. Plot this. Now, that'll work great. I'll chisel away at that just a little bit. I can stay in the part that's still round. And I think I can use a straight to kick this back. Man, that's going to buy me quite a bit of room. It's not going to be perfectly where I wanted it. So I may tack it, and obviously I'm going to tack it and see where it lands. I use my calibrated eyeball to mark it, and I'm going to chop that off and see where that lands. I think I can make that work. That'd be great. Yeah, it'll work great. So, this is the original mark that I drew out on the table, and that just sucks it in that much more. So I cut here, and added me a new piece of straight. The other piece, I guess, fell on the floor. I don't know where it went, but this is still loose, so I can rotate this pipe here on this plane and get it to where I want it over here. But I'm gonna tack it and we'll fit it in the car. All right, did the same thing. Got the driver's side tailpipe in. I'm going to cut a little bit of an 1/8 of an inch off here so I can leave that weld there, grind it off, and basically do the same thing I did the other tailpipe. Now, it's still gonna have to be modified right through there. What I've done, I can do that still yet. Still put my hand in there, it's just the same. And it's getting away from the tire, all the same. Let me get underneath there and see, show you what I'm talking about. So, the exhaust is really close in here, and actually it's touching, but I noticed the V-band popped loose on this one, so this is not as good as a reference as I want. It should be like that, and you got daylight between the tire and the exhaust. I'd really like to get it further over, but I think I'm stuck with my muffler placement because it's really the only place to put them, because I don't want to put them underneath the bottom edge of the car where the passenger compartment is. For one, it's too low, and I think these are nice and tucked up underneath the rear quarter panel here, so that's ground level right there. And there's more than enough room on ground clearance. Let me go to the other side and see where this pipe lands, and that will determine where my muffler goes. So that's what I'm looking at getting right there, gaining that clearance. So I've got clearance on the tank and clearance on the tire. I know it's still tight, but I can only do so much. I'm gonna put the muffler back up in there and see what that does. All right, after about an hour of fussing and cussing, I fixed the V-band here that I snapped off because the old tack welds just didn't hold it. I think I've got it in place where I want it. The tailpipe's here. And here, I've got room and on both sides, and I got the right angle as far as going into the muffler there, and enough room for the tire clearance as well. So just like I said, just taking up real estate here and there and trying to share it with other components. It gets a little tight and tough, but got the muffler back in place, wedged in there with the jack and the block of wood, just so I can hold its position. And I'm gonna go ahead and tack the tailpipes into the mufflers, and try to make sure, once I tack it, step back, drop everything, make sure everything stays where I put it and where I like it. So we'll get that tacked and get it in position and see what we got. Like I said, it's still a little snug right up in here, but I got room I'm not touching, and there's still quite a bit of room here for tire clearance. So I'll get that tacked in and we'll go from there. All right, we're back at the on the floor here. I'm just going to tidy up some loose ends. I'm going to make some brackets here to hold these brake lines in place. And I was just kind of giving a once over and make sure, get all this metal cleaned up that'll be covered up, and get a little bit of primer on this bare metal. But so far, everything else is looking pretty tidy, finished up. As far as mocking up where the exhaust is going to be permanently, I'll pull it all out and weld everything up, and then get some sort of a coating on it, I hope so. Just little things like this. We can get this back panel back in, and those braces that come down from here on both sides, and that holds the rear package tray in place. So we'll get these tidied up. I'm going to drill some holes, and we'll get some brackets put in here. All right, I went through and I got this rear panel in place. I know I jumped ahead a little bit. I was working on the brake line brackets. I guess I'll just have to skip over that, but it's not really that big of a deal. I used the factory brackets and drilled some holes in that cross piece. I had a cross member here, and mounted them factory, so that way I can use the factory lines and I don't have to get anything custom made. But this is the rear panel. It's got access holes so I can get to this bolt for the rear suspension pieces. They kind of protrude into the passenger compartment a little bit, but no big deal. They're covered up with a rear seat. I got a little panel made to cover them up, and it'll be all gravy. Got my little piece here I made using the shrinker stretcher as a flange to have something to weld the tunnel in that rear floor section to run some screws in here and up along there to tighten that panel up. And as I go, I'll weld a little bit and push. I didn't want to drill holes into the 3x2, 2x3, however you want to call it. I didn't want to weld holes. I didn't want to weld holes into the 2x3 tubing because it's pretty stout and it'd probably end up snapping those little screws. But it's the same process I used to get all this other floor in place. So these are also kick-ups that where the suspension, the lower control arms protrude a little bit. But again, the seat goes here. If I choose to use one, actually I can't find the original seat at the rear, so I'm not sure what happened to it. I'll have to look in my other storage building and see if I may just piled some crap over it and you can't see it. But anyway, we'll get set up here and I'll go ahead and start welding this panel in, and this will be the last panel other than the one that's over the rear, over the gas tank. I gotta drop the tank and get that fit in there, and we'll weld that in too. Yeah, moving right along. This is huge progress right here, because this is going to be allowing me to put these bracing in, and I'll show all that. So we'll get to it. As it turned out, these screws are more than enough to drill into the 2x3 tubing that I have for the frame. So I'm going along and just drilling every other one and sucking that panel down so it's nice and flush. I got the whole bottom welded. I got my little horseshoe flange looking thing welded. I went up that side. I'm going to go ahead and go up this side and kind of work my way back, trying to do even, so keep the floor square at the bar. Probably have to go to the back side of the car to do that, because I don't have much leverage left on this side. Intended this to be on top, and when I laid that in there, it flopped over the top of this, and I didn't even pay any attention, but I can still pinch it together there and run a screw in along that seam. This is, nah, it's not going to work, because this is actually a little bit longer. One other thing I can do is drop the gas tank. Alright, we'll do that. We'll drop the gas tank and get this done correctly. Alright, now this floor section will come out. What I did, the spout actually comes up in here and is sitting here, so I don't have to have an external gas filler. It's still not wanting to come out. I think I worked myself into a corner. Success. This is a little flange tool. I'm sure a lot of people that watch videos like this have seen it. You just punch it and it'll punch a hole in the sheet metal for you. These holes to me aren't big enough for a plug weld, so I'll go behind it. It does make a pretty decent start. And this is also an offset flange tool here on the other side, so helps if you want to overlap sheet metal panels, you can do that. So a lot of the same, just plug welding, drilling. It's just more of the same boring stuff. But I'm really stoked to get all this done because this is the last piece of the main floor and the trunk floor, and that's in as well. I went ahead and just kind of moved ahead with that. I'm going to finish all these spot welds up and dress them, and I've got some seam sealer. I may go ahead and start applying that. I don't know. I've got a mess. I got to really clean all this up. More so the cabin of the car. I've got a lot of, use it as storage too. So, man, we're making some progress today. This is exciting. I like it. Just all the little tedious little crap that you have to do is now it's all hidden. A lot of work's underneath this car. But putting all these panels back on, it's exciting because it's you can start to see kind of sort of the finish line on the horizon. This is the package tray bracing. So the back seat will clip into here. I got the other one off. I just screwed this one in place just to kind of test fit it. All the spot welds lined right back up, and not quite so much here, but that's because I've moved this panel around a dozen times. But this is all good. I'm gonna put one more screw in here to suck that plate into this, and I'll start plug welding it. And I actually need to pull it back off and put some holes in that panel so I can weld it. Maybe put a couple here. I'm just going to mark it so I know where to end that, and we'll weld it all up in here too, and it'll be nice and solid. Both of them should be done today, and got all the spot welds ground down, and threw some primer on there just keep it from flash rusting, and we'll keep moving forward. So got the side bracing in both sides, and I'm working on a little patch, working on a little patch panel to cover that corner up right there. I started working on a piece here. I put it in a stretcher and stretch it out, get that curve. So it should fit down like that, and I'll trim the top off also. Just something to cover it up, and I'll seam seal over it, and it'll disappear. Probably gonna need to make one over here too. It's panel got cut a little shy, but that's okay. So I've been messing with my rear bumper. I moved on from the floors, got all that tidied up, finished up. This rear bumper was kind of a hodgepodge of a couple of different pieces. I used the ends down to get that curve piece. That's part of the original Falcon bumper. And I've adapted the middle section of a Corvair bumper. And it kind of resembles a Camaro. I think I've said it before in another video, but it's multiple pieces. This section had to be widened, which is odd to me because I thought a Corvair would be about the same size as a Falcon as far as it's a mid-sized car, but whatever. Had to be cut in the middle and lengthened, and that section, like I said, on the other end as well. I've been chopping away at it and cutting and getting it fit to the body. I want it nice and tight. Pretty close to where I want it. This end is really nice as far as fitting that curve. This body line is what I'm aiming at, and fits really good there. The other side here is a little out of shape, so I'm going to end up having to cut a wedge slice out of that and trying to drop that down a little bit. This kind of kicked up. I've got two brackets on the where the kind of transition starts, and it just bolts in from the back, and it's more like a piece of trim at this point. It's not really going to be any kind of a bumper of any sort. I'm going to try to get my brackets back in there and get it bolted to the car, and then I'll start marking out some spots where I want to cut. But I know this end over here on the right side is going to be cut off. But I think it needs a bumper. I don't think it looks right without a bumper back here. It's just the shape of this car is just not, in my opinion, it's not right without a bumper of some sort. Factory bumper is pretty massive and ugly, and it's not where I was headed. All right, put a little cut in it there and pull that in just a touch. I don't want to go too far, so I'm gonna do a little shaping, do a little fitting, and it's back and forth, do a little shaping, do a little fitting. And already I think it's in the right direction. All right, that's fitting a lot better, nice and tight. Of course, it's not going to touch the body, but right now I've just got it up there, wedged up there with my knee. But it's really uniform, and the dive angle looks pretty good to me. Maybe a little bit more on that side. Maybe just a little more shaping over here is need to be done. I get it to pull in a little more, but obviously you can see I'm already touching there, so I'm gonna have to do a little more trimming compared to this side. Let's see. Put in the press there to get that closed up a little bit better, and it's fitting really nice. A little cleanup on the back side, obviously. I'm not gonna leave it all crusty like that, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me get a little more shape to that corner there and get it to dive in a little better and match the driver's side, and we'll move right along. All right, still working on this bumper. Got the gap a lot better. Obviously the bumper is a little bit uneven, but I've been beating on it and framing on it with a hammer. It's pretty heavy gauge steel, so it takes a little more effort to get it in shape, but it's really looking a lot better. The gap here is pretty well uniform where I can, down in the middle, obviously where I added the section, I'm gonna need to do a little fill in there on the edge to get this gap perfect, but I figured that would be the case anyway, even if it was a factory bumper. It's not the same shape as this car, so it's gonna need to be cut and filled. Obviously, as you get along here, this is where I cut the wedge out of the bumper and actually measured side to side at a certain point, and it just happened to be this bolt that I installed just to kind of temporarily hold it to the bracket, and I was a little short, so that's why the shape was different. So I cut it off, and about 3/4 of an inch here on the end is the difference, and the shape here matches a lot better. It'll need to be filled a little bit, and I'm gonna bring this end of the bumper in a little bit more to the car, and just curve it, kind of make it curve and cap over so you won't see behind it. It's pretty close to that now, but it needs a little bit more tuning. Of course, I'll add a little bit of filler here to this and get this gap uniform while the bumper's bolted to the car. Just use a piece of scrap, welded to it just to hold this piece in, so I can use kind of as my third hand. And I'm gonna find some steel that's pretty close to that thickness and make a little filler piece there. But it fits really a lot better already. The end of that bumper, you can see where it dives in a little bit, and it's getting the same dive in here as it transitions from flat to curved down to match this body shape. This will be painted, so I don't have to worry about chrome. I'll body work it like I body work the rest of the car and paint them probably a silver to kind of mimic chrome, but this car doesn't have any chrome, so just a little bit of difference. And instead of body painted, body color, it'll be a little different contrast there off the car. But we'll keep going at it. I'll get this filled in, and we'll get back. All right, so I got the piece scabbed back in, and it looks like hell, but that's what a grinder's for. I'm not a professional welder, so I don't claim to be. Fits a lot better. That's what I was looking at mainly. This dive portion here where it starts here and dives back towards the corner of the car. Come down here and it matches really nicely. I'm really happy with that. It was much better than it was before. This gap's looking good too. I'll tighten that up a little bit. Obviously, I'm gonna tighten all of it up, like I said before. Probably try to get it somewhere around in there. I haven't measured that yet, but eyeballing it, that'll give me room for body work and paint, and still have a nice tight gap. Have to do some filling and all that down through here, but turned out really good. Got a little piece, like I said, scabbed in there, and need to finish welding, grinding, and on to the next part of the project. I got the bumper fit in place really nicely. Still got to mend these gaps up a little bit, welded brackets to the actual bumper. I'm really happy with that. That's the back end of the car. And pretty well done other than the bumper. Finished all the floors and probably get some seam filler in that, and then we'll flip her around and start work on the front. Bit of work to do on the front end, but it's down on the ground on all 4 shocks also. So I got to adjust them a little bit more. But I'm going to work on my custom grill and just tighten up all the loose ends up front here. I got a gravel panel I got to work on and make it fit. I was kind of leaving it a rough opening so that I could clear a condenser when I get that part for the air conditioning. But so it's still a little ways down the road, so I won't necessarily finish the opening here like I want it yet. I've got plenty of work to do on this grill bar, headlight surround, all in the little fender coves here. I'm gonna make sure all this is nice and tight and looks good, because it's visible when even with the trim on, you can still see in there. So just tighten all that up. This bumper's in good shape. The gaps are looking good, and I'm not sure how I want to run a blinker in here. If I want to run a little circle light there or integrate it into the headlight. I've got 2 headlight options that have a blinker integrated in them, and it's not that goofy ring that goes all the way around. It's actually a bar, and the blinker is below it. So I think it looks really clean, and it doesn't take away too much of the classic look, but still too modern, you know. I may still end up putting a little light in here for like a driving light, but I like that it's clean and there's nothing here. There's no blinker, there's no fog lamp or anything like that, but I kind of like that clean look. But once I assemble everything and see that there may not be enough on the front of the car, sometimes, in my opinion, it can be too smooth. But I'm going to drive it, so I want to make sure, you know, I've got components that I use for driving, and it's something that can be driven and as user-friendly as it can be. So that's where my head's at least. I may be just rambling, but it kind of sort of makes sense in my head. But like I said, we'll get it turned around the next go around, and we'll work on this front end here. And I also want to figure out some sort of a way to incorporate a cold air setup into the engine there. I may go through the passenger side or the driver's side fender well here and put the filter underneath the fender, make some sort of a box for that. But still a little ways down the road. But we're definitely headed in the right direction. A lot of little nitpicking projects are getting finished up on it, and closing in on doing some body work and getting her slicked up onto maybe a prime actually in maybe a month or so. I think I can foresee that. Get the whole car in primer and high build, and I can start blocking on it. But so far, everything else is really and truly, it's coming along pretty nice. I'm really happy with the progress I made this short little week I had. So anyway, thanks for sticking around and watching the chaos. I really appreciate it. Give it a like and a subscribe and share it, and we'll keep this party going. Thanks, guys.